Okay, I'm going to try to walk you all through this ArcGIS stuff. So bear with me here and I'll get to where we need to get. Remember, what we want to do is we want to just kind of toggle back and forth between this screen and the actual map. So we'll go to lessons. Okay. Sign in. We got all that fixed now. Open the map. All right. A lot of times, like when it asks you to save the map and it asks you to type in specific things, you can just copy and paste a lot of this stuff. So like so. I'm going to put my initials on the back of that. And then there was something it wanted us to do for this summary. Here we go. So we'll copy this too. Okay. All right. That's done. Map saved. Okay, now as you probably figured out, this first part is just going to walk you through all the various buttons that are available. Okay, so I've zoomed to Mercy River watershed. Okay, so now on the ribbon, click bookmarks and add bookmark. So bookmarks, add bookmark. We're gonna, so Mercy River watershed, and again I'm just gonna copy and paste. Okay, so now anytime that I zoom out away from that, I can go back to Mercy River watershed. Okay, so like for example here, I'll zoom way out. There's the Chesapeake Bay, remember we talked about that? Okay, so I can go back to bookmarks and I can click this and it'll take me right back to that spot, which is good. Okay, here's just some tips about how to zoom and things like that. This is really easy if you have a mouse, but if you don't, that's okay. have it here. Let's see. Alright, so I zoomed in. Oops, kind of messed up there. Let me back out. So I can hold shift and then zoom in on like these two dams, for example. We'll get to all this in a little bit. Alright, now I'll just go back out to the watershed now. But the shift key is what allows you to draw that box. And then just use your mouse. Again, just a little bit more information here, and you can read through this. This, on the first lesson, this is all pretty straightforward. Okay, here, I'll just follow this for a minute. Zoom into so we can kind of do stuff like that too. So there's some options amongst the buttons. So I'm going to shift. I'm going to zoom in on this a little bit more so we can actually see what's going on down here right at the dam. You know, and you can keep going. Okay, that looks like about the extent of how far you can go. So here's the fishway right here, by the way. Is this, here, I'll just draw a box around it, even though can't really zoom in, but that's the fishway. You can, but again, it's not very good. And you can zoom in and out using these tabs over here too. And then you can always hit this home button, and that'll take you all the way back out to what you initially started with. So it's good to understand how to drive with these bookmarks and drawing boxes and things like that. Okay, so this is just having you all zoom into all the different watersheds. Or excuse me, all the different dams. Okay, so you get through with this. So you can either click on this button to the next lesson, or we can go back to the top and we can click on quantify accessible habitat. I'm just going to make a note here that at 8:30 is where we're starting this. Okay. Okay, so the construction of a fishway is an expensive process, both in terms of financial requirements and planning effort. So before this can be considered, determining the amount of habitat made accessible is very important, is paramount. Good word. So we're going to estimate the amount of salmon spawning habitat that would be made accessible by the proposed fishway. So first we're going to create upstream watersheds for dams. Now remember, if you ever get stuck on this, go back 2 steps. That usually fixes it. Okay, so we're going to start with dam 5, because this is what we're going to try to make available, is all this. We're going to look at what would be available if from dams 5, 6, and 7 we can make all of this additional habitat accessible for Atlantic salmon. So I'm going to go back out to the watershed, go to dam 5, and I'll just count. double check here by just hovering over it. There we go. So, or clicking it, sorry. Okay, so we'll zoom to dam 5. And then there we go. So it says zoom to dam 5 and ensure that no other dam features are visible in your current extent. Okay, so we're going to go to contents and we're going to perform an analysis. And this shows you exactly what buttons that you're going to need to hit. So contents, dams. Okay. You can also get at it from hitting this analysis button up here, but either way. Okay, so we're going to find locations and click create watersheds. So this is going to calculate the drainage area of a point based on hydrologic data that the company that makes ArcGIS, Esri, just has in their database. So let's verify the point feature layer set to dams, and we're going to set the search distance as 0. So dams, 0. I'm going to name the layer Watershed Dam 5. And then we'll add our name, or add your initials to it. Verify that the use current map extent box is checked. It is, and it should look like this. And then we're going to click run analysis. And usually the instructions are going to give you a picture, a screenshot of what exactly you should have on your screen. So this is always a good place to go back and double check. So let's run analysis. Sometimes this takes a second. You can see the wheel thinking right here. Okay, so that took about, I'm at home, that took about over a minute probably for that to analyze and add these new layers. And layers plural, so it actually added 2 layers. It added what we wanted, and then it also added another layer called adjusted points. And I believe it says that the adjusted points layer contains actual location used to calculate the watershed. This is not necessary, so we will remove it. So in the contents pane, we'll point to watersheds dam 5 adjusted points layer. Click more options and choose remove. Alright, so we'll remove the layer. And now we're just left with the one. Okay, so it says, notice that calculating the watershed upstream of Dam 5 includes the area upstreams from Dam 6 and Dam 7. Fish that bypass Dam 5 will be restricted by Dam 6, and so we won't have access there. So we'll also need to calculate the watershed area upstream from Dam 6 so we can identify the difference. Only the watershed area that fish could access if a fishway is constructed on Dam 5. So we're just going to create another watershed. So we're going to do the exact same thing we just did using Dam 6. So repeat steps 2 through 12, but just substitute Dam 6 in each instance where Dam 5 is mentioned. Okay. So at this point, if you need to, you can go all the way back to step 2. All right. Zoom into Dam 5, but instead, again, we're going to zoom into Dam 6. So I'm going to just go back out to the watershed as a whole. I'm going to draw a box around Dam 6 right here. Okay. Let's see. Okay, we're going to point to dams. We're going to click Perform Analysis. So go back to dams. So I think a mistake that people will make is they'll do the Perform Analysis on this watershed Dam 5 layer. No, make sure you do it on dam, just on the dams layer. Okay, so I think, what was it? Yeah, find locations, create watersheds. Okay, we want to go. Okay, so we're going to set the distance as 0. Make sure that it's on dam, so it's 0. There's units here too, but we don't really need to worry about that because it's 0. I'm not too concerned about that. And we'll come back and we'll capture. We'll just capture this information. Of course, we're going to change this to Dam 6 here in just a second. And we're going to put our initials on it too. Oops. There we go. Okay, make sure save use current map extent is selected, and then we'll run the analysis. Okay, so the 2 layers have been added once again, and that took about a minute for the software to think its way through that, so I just paused the video. So remember that we're going to remove this adjusted points, and I won't even go through the steps there. I'll just go ahead and remove it. So we go to more options, as you can see, and we'll remove. Okay, and so now we're set. Let's go back to the instructions. So I think we're down at like number 13, maybe. Okay, so we'll zoom back into the watershed, and now we should be able to see. We'll zoom back out, excuse me, and we should be able to see the difference here. Okay, so this area that you see right here, so this is, so by opening up, by creating a fishway around Dam 5, this is the area that will be made accessible. Okay, so it tells us to come over here and just uncheck the Dam 5 extent, and if you kind of check it on and off, then you can see like what's available here, and then we can like, you know, see the same, do the same thing with 6 really. Okay, so at this point, let's save the map. Because we actually have changed it now, because we've added layers to the map. Before we were just really turning things on, turning things off, and clicking and zooming and not really doing anything, but we actually have changed the map now. And that concludes the first part of this lesson. So on to the second part of this lesson. So overlay layers to find the difference in watershed area. So it says that we identified our area of interest is the difference between the watersheds of dams 5 and dam 6 to determine how much salmon spawning habitat would be made available. And so you'll isolate this region using the overlay layers tool. All right. So we're going to point to watershed dam 5 and we're going to perform another analysis. We're going to click Manage Data and click Overlay Layers. So here's the Perform Analysis. Manage Data. Overlay Layers. Okay. Let's come back and see what it tells us to do. Okay, and then, again, just another screenshot of exactly what that should look like on your screen. Okay, so we're going to choose Watershed Dam 5 as the input layer. So the input layer, Watershed Dam 5. Okay, good. That's already selected for us. We're going to choose choose Watershed Dam 6 as the overlay layer. Overlay layer, Watershed Dam 6, good. And here I'm going to scooch this over here. You can play around with all this stuff, this is totally customizable. Okay, and then choose Erase as our overlay layer method. So erase. Change the result layer name to difference in watershed area, and then again I'm going to just put my initials on that too. So I'm going to copy that. DG. Okay, and we're going to run analysis. Okay, so here's our new layer, difference in watershed area, EG, and you can see it here. All right, so it asks us now to remove our name or initials from the name of the new layer. So this is kind of one of those things where it's just, it's just having you learn some of the buttons and stuff. You can, this whole thing, like I keep saying, is very customizable. So I'll just click on rename. And here, I'll just get rid of that. Nothing happens functionally, just changes the name. Okay, so we'll zoom to the extent of our new feature that we've created. Maybe, there it goes, okay. And, if you want, you can make this easier to view by we can turn off, we can turn, just by unchecking these boxes, we can turn off layers 5 and 6, and we can just look at this if we want. Or we can turn 6 back on, or we can turn both back on, it doesn't matter, but depending on how you want to look at it. So I'll just leave them on for now, but, maybe we'll uncheck them here in a minute. Okay, if you turn on numbered labels for the dams layer earlier, turn them off. I think that was in lesson 1, but I didn't do that, so they're not on. So I'm just going to save the map, but there's instructions there for you to do that. So save the map here, because again we've added another layer. We're changing the map. So that concludes part 2. Okay, so part 3. We're going to add the hydrology feature layer. So we've isolated watershed area upstream from Dam 5 that we made accessible if the fishway was constructed. For salmon conservation, the item of importance is not the watershed area, but the amount of freshwater streams that are going to be available for spawning. So in this section, we're going to add hydrology data for all the freshwater features found within the Mercy River watershed to your map. So on the ribbon, we'll click Add, and we'll choose Search for Layers. Okay, in the Search for Layers pane, in the Find box, we're going to type Mercy Hydrology. So here, I'm not going to type, I'm going to copy and paste. To limit the search results to layers owned by Learn ArcGIS, we're going to add that owner to the Find box. So paste that in there. So if you notice right now, see, it's only going to look in My Content is where it's searching from, and there's very few things that are in My Content. Now I've done some stuff in the past, so I'm going to have a lot more than you do, but you're going to have probably 3 layers in here because that's all that you have. So we have to change this to ArcGIS Online, and that's going to give us everything. So when we type in Mercy Hydrology, it's going to give us the layers that we're looking for, but you have to change this pane right here. If you don't do that, then you're not going to find what we're looking for, and I think that's where some of you were getting caught on Thursday in class. Okay, so this Mercy Hydrology layer comes up, so we're going to click on it, and then we're going to click Add to Map. Okay, again, so that's what it looks like. Okay, so after the layer draws, we're going to see that the layer contains hydrology features within the boundary, such as rivers, streams, and lakes. Okay, and you can see that popping up. Okay, so I'm just going to hit this X to take this away. And I'm going to go back to, I'm just going to hit this back button now, and that'll take me back to my content layers, or you can click on the details button as well. That'll do the same thing. But now you can see all these are drawn in. So I'm going to zoom out for just a second, and you can see that it draws all the streams and lakes and whatnot within this watershed, not without. So that would be good. I'm sure there's probably a layer you could search for out there that would be streams and rivers of Nova Scotia, but we're not interested in that. We're just interested in the Mercy River watershed. Okay, so I'm going to zoom back in on our created layer. Okay, it says the default symbology makes it difficult to distinguish between the difference in watershed area layer and the Mercy hydrology layer. So we're going to see if we can fix that. So in the content pane, point to difference in watershed area layer, and we're going to click the change style button. And so again, here's a screenshot, shows you exactly what you need to press. So in the difference layer, oops, let me go back again. Let me make sure we're okay. I just click that just to make sure again. Okay, so change style. Okay, so it says in the change style pane for a drawing style under location single symbol, click options. And then there's a screenshot. So this is what we're looking at. So drawing style, location single symbol, options. And click symbols. Symbols, and at the top of the symbol window we're going to confirm the fill property is selected, and on the color palette we'll click like a light orange color, and that doesn't really matter too much, you just do your best. Okay, so fill is selected, and then we'll pick this light orange. And it gives you some more information on that. At the top of the symbol window, click Outline. And we're going to click a darker orange color now. So like this, or maybe we can go one more shade darker. So that's like 2 shades difference there. And again, doesn't really matter. That's up to you. Okay, so then in the change style pane, we'll click OK twice, and then we'll click Done. So, OK, OK, and Done. All right, so now it gives us a little difference there. Okay, so we're going to save the map. Again. And while it's doing that, I'll come back and read some more directions. Okay, so now we are on to part 4. Okay, so part 4, filter the hydrology data. So in this scenario, we're interested in finding features that could represent potential high-quality salmon spawning habitat. They favor cool freshwater streams with silt-free substrates, so like gravel and stuff like that. Fast-flowing, oxygen-rich water, which, based on the results of our eco column, we know the importance of oxygen-rich water. Show the features that best represent this habitat, so we're going to filter the Mercy hydrology layer. Okay, so in the contents pane, we're going to point to Mercy hydrology, and we're going to click filter. So here's the filter button. And that's kind of nice that gives us some information too, just in Schoology. Okay, so here's the filter layer in Mercy hydrology, so we'll click that, and here's what we get. So again, we're running some more analyses here. Okay, filter uses logical expressions to find features in the layer based on attribute values in its table. So the feature of interest can appear on the map, and all the others will be hidden but not deleted. You just be hidden. Okay, so in the filter window, we're going to ensure that feature code is set in the list of field names. I'm just going to do these one at a time. Okay, feature code. Leave the condition set to is. Under the input box for attribute values, choose unique. This provides a list of valid attribute values for the selected field. Okay, from the list of attribute values, we're going to choose this code, which is it's a coded value for small streams. So let's see if we can find that. WARV 50, I think, right? There we go, WARV 50. I think that's it right there. Double check that. Yep, that's right. Okay, so then we're going to click Add Another Expression. Okay, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to choose WARV 55 in this one. So let's just make sure everything else is identical. Feature code is unique. WARV 55. Above the query boxes, change all to any. Okay, and that's going to be this drop down here. So let's see. It's here in this box. So match all to match any of the following expressions. So that's going to allow for either one. Good. And we're going to apply the filter. Okay, so that one showed up pretty quick. That one The other layers that we've created have taken a little bit more time. That one just took about 5 or 10 seconds. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and turn off layers 5 and 6 here, just so we're only seeing what's going on in our selected layer. Okay, so now we're going to change the name of Mercy Hydrology to Mercy River Streams, and then we'll save the map. So let's see, so we'll click More Options, Rename. Streams. Okay. And you don't need to put your initials on that. This is just for your view. And we'll save the map. That's my kid hollering in the background, sorry. And that concludes part 4. So now we're on to part 5. Okay, so here we're going to summarize potential spawning habitat. So it says we've added the hydrology layer, we filtered data to extract the habitat that's most suitable for salmon spawning. You'll summarize the amount of habitat made available with the construction of a fishway. So in the contents pane, we're going to point to difference in watershed area, and we're going to perform an analysis. So click on that, and here's, remember, there's our perform analysis button. Now here, I'm going to do this a little differently. I mean, we have this selected right now, but you can either click this button, or you can come up here and you can click this button. And it should be the same thing. And as when the pane pops up as to like input layers and output layers and things like that, we'll get to make sure that we're using the correct layer. And again, we're using its difference in watershed area. That's what we want. Okay, so we're going to go summarize data, and we're going to click summarize within. Summarize within. Okay, it's going to generate statistics that fall within the boundary of the polygon layer. And we can calculate total length of the streams within the boundary. Okay, so in the summarize within pane, verify that difference in watershed area layer is set for the first parameter. Choose Mercy River Streams as the layer to summarize. So there's difference, layer to summarize, Mercy Streams. Okay, that's all set for us, so that's great. For the length of lines, we're going to choose kilometers instead of miles. We are talking about Canada here. Use the metric system up there. A. Okay, we do not need to choose a field to group by because we've already filtered our data. So we'll skip this optional setting. Okay, so your screen should look like this. Okay, so let's double check that. Here, I'm going to pull this out a little bit here just so we can see a little bit better. Okay, so polygon, difference in watershed area, summarize layer of Mercy, kilometers. Okay, I think we pretty much have everything. We probably need to change the name though. Yep. So let's change the name to potentially accessible streams, and then we'll copy that and we'll add our initials. Current map extent. Let's just double check there's nothing else. Okay, there's not. Click run analysis. Okay, so again, that takes about a minute to run, and maybe not what you expect, but it's this red dot that comes up, and that's all that we get. So let's see what the instructions tell us to do. A new point layer appears in the map. Its table stores summary information that you want, which we can also see in the legend. So in the contents pane, let's point to potentially accessible streams layer and click the show legend button. legend appears in the contents pane. So when we look at that, it tells us that the summarized length in kilometers is, now this gives us 24.4, but if you look at, I don't know what yours will say, but mine just says, you know, greater than or equal to 24. Okay, remember that's kilometers. So what that means is that more than 24 kilometers of freshwater streams will be made available by the construction of a fishway on Dam 5. So now that we've determined that total amount of habitat, we'll label this in our map. Okay, so in the contents pane, we're going to point to difference in watershed. We're going to click the More Option button, and we're going to choose Create Labels. More Option, Create Labels. In the Label Features pane for text, choose a new expression. Let's see, so we'll change this drop down. Okay, here we go. Down on the bottom, new expression. All right. In the expression, we're going to type in, no reason to type, we'll just copy and paste. Copy, fishway opens 24.4 kilometers of spawning habitat, and then we'll click Test. Delete all that. This may be wrong. We'll see what happens. Oop, I messed up. So hit cancel, we'll start over. So come back, I'm gonna hit new expression again, have this pop back up. Apparently we need all this code up above. There's some important information there, so I'll just paste what I wanted to paste in there, and now I'll hit test. So now I'll hit test. Okay, another error. Let me close this. I think it's code stuff, so I think we need, there we go. I think we need to put these quote marks in. So copy and paste it fully with the quote marks, right? There we go. Let's hit test now. Okay, good. So now we've got a result, and it's a string. I don't know anything about computer code, but it must mean something. Okay, I think we're good. Okay, so we'll click OK. All right, and now we get that text that pops up here. Very nice. Okay, it's difficult to read against the imagery, so we'll change the label style so it's easier to see in all the map contents. So we're going to change the font color to white. So in label features, change this to white. There we go. Yeah, easy enough. So I just changed that again. There's the color box. It was on black. I changed it to white. I suppose if you wanted to pick different colors like fuchsia, you could do that too. Whatever you want to do there. Okay, let's make sure. Okay, yeah, click OK. And just, you know, again, I mean, I've said this a bunch, but I'm just toggling back and forth. Okay, so remove potentially accessible streams layer. It's no longer needed now that we've labeled the map with summary information. And in the contents pane, we're going to drag dams layer to the top of the layer list. I'm actually not going to remove this. I'm just going to uncheck the box, and I'll tell you why in just a second. So we're going to drag the dams layer to the top. Oh, wait a minute, never mind. Here, watch. See this? These three dots. If you grab these three dots, you can move layers. And so, like, over here in the table of contents, this is like the order in which the layers are drawn on the map. So whatever's on the top, that's going to be the top layer on the map. So sometimes layers can get buried. You can't see them just because other layers are on the top. So by moving things around, you can, your map will look different. Okay, save the map. All right, let's see, what is it? How do we summarize here? In these lessons, we visually examined a series of dams on the Mercy River. We've learned to use aerial imagery to find a good candidate for a location of a new fishway. We used analysis tools to create upstream watershed area from river barriers, determine the area that salmon could potentially access via a new fishway. We calculated the amount of habitat available, and then we labeled the map. So, this is a great example of ecological modeling, GIS. I mean, this is what the professionals do. When they're attempting to identify available habitat, or, all sorts of things. You name it, really. They can use these techniques that we just walked through to identify all sorts of things. They can identify, and out west, they can identify, places that could be at risk for forest fires and, again, you name it, good habitat for eastern gray squirrels. I don't know. There's all sorts of things that we can do. Okay, so we've done that. The fishway opens up 24.4 kilometers of spawning habitat. Here's your challenge for extra credit if you want it. So this will be, how many points is this? Okay, so this will be, let's say this whole activity is going to be worth 15 points. So you should be able to do this pretty easily. I'll give you 3 extra credit points each if you can figure out how much additional spawning habitat would be created if there was a fishway built around Dam 6. And then I'll give you another 3 points extra credit if you can figure out how much additional spawning habitat is created around Dam 7. All right, so your final map, if you go all the way through Dam 7, would look like this. Here, actually, let me back out of this a little bit. We'll just zoom out on the watershed. Okay, so you'll have a text line that's, you might want to actually go back in and change this and say Dam 5 opens up, 24.44, and then Dam 6 opens up X kilometers of salmon spawning habitat, and then Dam 7 opens up X kilometers of spawning habitat. So you'll have to maybe play around with that a little bit, but if you can figure out what those two numbers are, I know what they are, by the way, but if you can figure out what those two numbers are and create a map with this, when you save your final map, and I'm going to save this again, when you save your final map, I will be able to look on your account at your final map and see that you have done those things. Okay, but when I look just for the 15 points, this is what I'm going to be looking for, is this picture. All right, that has this text on the bottom. You can't, okay, and and have these layers highlighted. I can zoom in. Where is it? Okay, I can zoom to layer. All right, like that. Okay, so if you want a little extra credit, there it is. I know this is a lengthy video, but I will include some information to you all about where the various parts stop and start. Okay, have a good weekend. Enjoy your long weekend. Go Bears tonight. I'm running the chains tonight, so you'll see me down there. A big smile on my face. Thanks.